First of all, thank you so much, and to Andrea, thank you so much, and to Handelsblatt for inviting me to be here today and tomorrow. I am an outsider, so I am attempting to speak German every now and then, but I'm not German. I'm from Chicago. So I just preface that by saying the reason that I'm here is because even as an outsider, I feel some of the emotion that you have about the future of Germany. And as concerned as you are about your future, I'm actually more concerned. Yeah, and you Germans are, you're depressed a lot. So, so my name is Amy Webb, if I haven't had a chance to meet you yet. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of a company called Future Today Institute. We're about 20 years old, and as Charlotte just mentioned, we work in an area called strategic foresight. So strategic foresight shows you where to play, how to win, and what it will take to be resilient going forward. So some of that is modeling trends using quantitative data analysis. Some of that is scenarios, which is what I'm going to show you today. But ultimately, all of this is about strategy, and it's about getting to the point where leaders feel confident making decisions because they have data and models showing them what's on the horizon. The work that we do tends to be a little bit farther out, and as you'll see in the scenarios today, these scenarios are about 10 years in the future, but I think you will feel a strong sense of urgency as we go forward. The methodology that I'm not going to go through the whole methodology, but we created a methodology that is best in class. It is data-driven. And it's very, very rigorous. And that's what we use to do all of our work. And our work can't tell what's making all this sound. I move around a lot. Let's do that. So the work is mostly private sector. So we work with large corporations all around the world. We do a lot of work in Germany, which is why I have this strong feeling about your future. But we also do public sector work. So we do work with governments as well all around the world. So I just wanted to start off with a quick story. It's because of the access that I have to C-suite leaders and to heads of state, and for some of the world's largest companies and countries around the world, that I have this perspective on Germany. And again, I'm an outsider, so you'll have to forgive me. But for the past, 12 to 18 months, as we've been doing our work with German companies, and I'm meeting with leaders, and I'm meeting with teams, and even when I was at the World Economic Forum in Davos a couple months ago, I keep trying to understand what is the future of this place. So if I talk to the United Arab Emirates, if I talk to companies in different segments in different places around the world, the answer is pretty clear. When I talk to German leaders, there doesn't seem to be an answer. What I get in response is, we're having problems with our GDP. We're having problems with growth. I hear so much about your problems. What I'm not hearing is, we have some problems, and this is the vision that we all share for what the future should look like. And when I was with Andrea and the Pulse Network is amazing, by the way. I know some of you are from it. Yes, you should applaud that. That's amazing. And if you don't know what that is, you should ask later on. And if you're a man, you're not invited. Right? They're not invited? Yes, okay. Just making sure. So when I was in Dusseldorf and we were having conversations, again, this came up during the Pulse Network. And again, there was sort of this consensus that we have no consensus as a country. We don't have this bright North Star that everybody is moving toward. Now, I'm an American, so you could argue, what does it matter to me? I'll tell you what it matters. This makes me really, really concerned because the world is being disordered right in front of our eyes. In the United States, we have extreme political polarization in a way that I've never really seen before, and unfortunately, that's caused a retreat in many ways from the global stage. Politics, like personal preferences and everything else aside, there's a very good likelihood that Donald Trump gets reelected this fall. And that throws a lot of what is currently in place in the United States into further disarray. It potentially means that the global stage doesn't have the United States as a major player, at least from a governmental level. It potentially means that certain companies rise up, and if they're publicly traded, then they have a financial incentive and a fiduciary responsibility to earn revenue versus put people first. And I think it starts to change. We wind up with geopolitics problems and trade problems and sustainability problems and all kinds of potential problems. And even if Biden gets reelected, the political polarization doesn't go away. So we're distracted in the United States. There are, ongoing tensions and now a war in the Middle East. So we've got that to contend with. Putin just got elected. Hope I'm not offending anybody, but he just won another election yesterday. So he's going to be in power for 6 more years. And that leaves Europe. From my point of view, Germany already has a solid foundation in critical industries needed to advance civilization, to spur growth, and to secure balance. I don't care what anybody says, the primary driver for most people, the motivation for most people is feeling secure and like they have agency. I don't know if you know this, because it actually doesn't get talked about, but Germany has the 2nd highest number of AI researchers in Europe after the UK, and that's significant because the AI researchers in the UK is DeepMind. Okay, that's Google's super important AI division. Scientists who are affiliated with the Max Planck Institutes have been awarded 39 Nobel Prizes across a multitude of different scientific fields. Germany has the 3rd highest, one of the largest economies, or the 3rd largest GDP on the planet. There are 1,300 hidden champions in this country, which is unlike anything else that exists anywhere in the world. And your expenditure in this country on R&D spending is 3.31%, which exceeded the EU's target of 3%. So I have to ask, what the fuck is going on here? A lot of you are, I know, asking this WTF, the same question, right? What is going on, and why are you waiting? Because waiting is what, again, I'm an outsider, but it's weird to me that you have the foundation here and you're not doing anything with it. This is a strange, yes, clap, but you guys, yes. But you cannot keep clapping. I only have 31 minutes left, so we got stuff to do. This is a strange contradiction to me. Germany built the current modern civilization that all of us live in. Your industries are what built that. You built automotive. You built logistics. You built supply chain. You built pharmaceuticals. You built shipping, banking, telecommunications. So, forgive me for saying this, but it feels very much like all of the reasons that Germany has been so successful were because you were willing as leaders to take strategic risks, and because at some point you did share a collective vision of the future. I don't see that happening anymore. It feels like you've stopped taking those strategic risks. I see it. When I meet with leaders in this country, I just don't see the appetite there. I don't sense any real sense of urgency, and there doesn't seem to, it seems to just be like complacency. You've also stopped innovating, and I know, you've got Heilbronn. I know that there are little things in the works, but not when it trickles down into individual companies, because people are not being incentivized to innovate and to take risks. And because of all of that, that's somebody leaving, because I'm insulting you. The good stuff will come, I promise. But it feels like you've stopped leading. And the problem is, this is the worst possible time for you to have done that, because you're facing strong headwinds. So we've spent all this time over the past several months, and by we, I mean my colleague, Christina von Messling, has spent an enormous time with her team looking at the headwinds and all of the facts that exist today. So our research has found several macro forces that you are facing right now. They are all fully detailed in the report that we are launching here at this event, but I just want to highlight a few. So geopolitics. Let me go back to the United States for a moment. We're giving the world whiplash because we keep swinging between these extreme political viewpoints. So in a way, we've become protectionist, but that's also kind of inconsistent. You are a major partner. When we have policy uncertainty, that creates problems for you. In the economy, you've got shrinking export markets. You also have, again, from my outside point of view, or our outside point of view, insufficient financial investment in innovation across the board. And in terms of society, your education system relative to other countries that face the same type of migration patterns that you do is grossly underfunded. We know this because we benchmarked you. And your peers and your near peers. In our research, we also found challenges facing different segments of the German economy, and I just want to highlight a few here. So you've got in government, you heard previously some talk about the bureaucracy here. You either have no action or just tiny little incremental tweaks. And also just these long, drawn-out, complicated bureaucratic processes. I know you know nothing about this, but I'm going to highlight it. On the business side of things, and this is something I have direct experience with, you have brilliant people leading companies here who are absolutely resistant to change. And that is, so that one got a laugh. That's interesting. It's not funny. It's very bad. One of the other challenging things, again, from a management perspective, is that your companies are much more siloed than because of the management structure, than companies that we see elsewhere. So what winds up happening is the innovation that is happening isn't trickling through. And so there's a lot of redundancy and additional spend, and it's like everybody's just spinning their wheels. You also have very rigid hierarchies, which means that if you've got somebody in this division over here who has a great idea for something, there's no pathway to get that up to the people who could use that information. And then on an individual level, we don't see people being willing to take measured risks. So we need to answer this question, what the fuck is going on here, with another question. What's the future? What's the future of Germany? Now, we've attempted to answer this question for you. My colleague, Christina von Messling, who is here, she's our head of Europe and all of the European operations that we have at Future Today Institute. She is German, but she has lived in the United States for half of her life. So we have this sort of, I think, unique outside-in perspective. She and her team have spent the past 4 months deeply researching and developing our outlook for the future of Germany. We developed a model for the year 2035, and again, I will spare you the process that was involved, but I'm glad to talk you through later on if you'd like. But this process revealed 2 possible outcomes. One outcome is that Germany's public and private sectors align on a vision for the future, a real one. You develop a plan, you see all of the opportunities that are on your horizon right now, and you take decisive action. That improves GDP growth, it raises up the Mittelstand, and it leads to a decades-long economic boom. And in the process, you become that anchor in Europe once again. I have lots of friends in France. I have lots of, so like nothing against Estonia, France. You're all wonderful people and places. But the structures exist here. So if you don't step up to lead in a meaningful way, then it's going to be hard for others to do that. So that's scenario one. The other outcome is Germany's public and private sector, so your government, your leaders, your business leaders, they just decide to preserve the status quo. We want to do what's comfortable. We're not going to stay off our path. And if you just continue the direction that you're going in, by the year 2035, by our model, we could be wrong, but we're usually not, your economy will have declined significantly. You will have missed the next wave of technology and innovation, and you will wind up losing your position as a global leader. This won't happen overnight. It will be a gradual decline, and in the process, you will destabilize Europe. So I'm here today to discuss our findings with you. This has been a very long process in partnership with Handelsblatt and the Pulse Network. Christina and her team conducted 40 in-depth interviews with senior executives across many different industries throughout Germany. She led a series of workshops, again, designed to extract ideas from folks. But in addition to that, there was quite a bit of in-depth quantitative modeling and qualitative research to identify signals of change. There was another quantitative process to model trends, and then the scenarios process involved data points from many different places, and finally building models to get to this point. My reason for telling you this is because these are not the scenarios that came from a couple of interviews and some brainstorming. There's math behind this. So with that in mind, I'd like to walk you through what our findings are, but I want you to see, so hopefully everybody can see this. Is there one screen? Okay, there's maybe one back there. Look at what's here. This is a really, really good sort of visual to keep in your mind as I explain this to you. So on the left-hand side, that's the straight ahead path. If you as a country, business leaders, government leaders, you just keep walking, right? You just go straight, you know, it's fine. The path is clear, it looks easy to walk on, it's smooth, it's familiar. However, the further that you go, there are breaks, there are pebbles, there are stones, there's a big pothole there. And eventually you hit a storm. And this path starts off easy but becomes completely untenable. That is preserving the status quo. The other side, the right-hand side, is where you make your choice. This is unfamiliar, and you have to make a decision that you want to turn off the path, and it is bumpy, and it is unfamiliar, but eventually it becomes smooth. The weather is clear, it becomes easy, and there are bright, sunny days ahead for Germany. So let's start assuming that at this moment, everybody here decides to step off the path. Okay, so let's go in the direction of the sun. In this scenario, this is our opportunities scenario, the government adopted a Made in Germany 2035 agenda, focused on enabling the development and the implementation of technologies, including artificial intelligence, bioengineering and synthetic biology, and advanced computing. In business, boards and management teams incentivized strategic risk-taking. Corporate governance experienced a strategic shift. Compensation wound up tied to innovation metrics. There are goals for things like patent filings and testing out new business models and encouraging cross-functional collaboration. And business leaders wound up invested in regional innovation clusters and partnered with universities and startups. These were relatively small decisions in the present that led to pretty dramatic outcomes. So I'd like to drill down on a few of these topics, starting with artificial intelligence. The German government and business leaders realized on March 19th, 2024, that AI was going to run out of training data pretty soon. That it will have used the internet, and at some point it was going to need other sources of data. No more just high-quality text, which would slow down AI's progress. So the problem is that most of the training data that we all use today that has been trained, has been used to train AI is stuff that's online. So that's Reddit, that's Wikipedia, that's books and images and things like that. That's what generative AI is. So the AI can't actually interact with humans while it's learning. Now that's fine if you want to get productivity gains in the short term, but that is a huge problem for all of us going forward. We haven't yet created an in silico model of the world, which means we don't just need more data, we actually need more types of data. Large language models, which we all hear a lot about, are not going to be enough going forward. Plus, it's actually getting harder and harder to train these systems because a lot of that data was gotten in ways that are causing lawsuits now. So the types of data that we need going forward are things like sensory data and visual data, different types of data that actually help us use AI systems much more profoundly. So what's coming next, and everybody realized was coming next, are large action models. LLMs predict what to say next, but LAMs predict what to do next. They break down big tasks into smaller pieces. So we're about to be surrounded by all different types of sensors, millions of sensors that are always on. They're always on us. They are always in our factories. Today or yesterday, NVIDIA announced many new sensor types in different ways that large action models will be coming. And here's the interesting thing that Germany did. German companies strategically prepared for and also built large action models. They didn't wait. Leading auto manufacturers, Volkswagen, BMW, Daimler, Porsche, Audi, they all built large action models to turn the myth of true autonomous driving into an actual reality. Large action models helped with things like fuel efficiency and energy efficiency because they were able to simulate in advance how these systems were working and change them as needed. This is also what completely personalized the user experience in a meaningful way. Leading pharmaceutical companies like Merck and Sanofi used large action models to accelerate their research and product development and completely revolutionized what clinical trials look like. In 2024, in addition to the AI stuff that was happening in computers, there was a lot of AI happening in biology. There was a brand new AI model called EVO that got launched. It uses the language of biology, so that's DNA, RNA, and proteins, to make predictions that enable biological design. So it's kind of like ChatGPT, but for genomes. And here too, German companies were like, this is the place where we need to be paying more attention. They understood what this meant for the horizon, that in fact, the future of generative AI was generative biology. And you know how you would today type in a prompt into ChatGPT or whatever you like, to get your emails written or your LinkedIn posts or whatever? That was very 2024. What happened going forward was that you could type in a prompt and get things like advanced materials. And it used new type of modeling in order to help us discover many, many different materials that existed. Google's DeepMind built an AI tool that inspired German companies. Using that same concept, DeepMind found 2.2 million new materials and had 380,000 of them tested in labs. And again, German companies saw this and didn't see this as the distant future. They saw this as an opportunity in the present. German businesses saw what was happening in AI. They saw what was happening in bioengineering and took decisive action. Manufacturing giants like Zeiss and BASF, they saw bioengineering as a near-term opportunity. It was not difficult to convince boards to do more real R&D and to figure out a way to get that R&D into actual strategy, execution, and commercialization. A huge number of German companies contributed to the global evolution in batteries and battery production. And instead of relying just on rare earth metals, they created new materials, they tested them, and now German researchers are home to new organic materials that are capable of both creating and storing more energy. Which means that by 2030, Germany is actually the energy creation and storage capital of the world. The Mittelstand, in the middle of all of this, embraced change, from AI to bioengineering to additive manufacturing. Small to medium companies in the year 2035 are now building and manufacturing parts and supplies, and basically they are keeping the backbone of the German economy growing. Much of this was possible because the German government created a long-term, executable strategic plan called Made in Germany 2035. The focus of that plan was supporting foundational technologies capable of scaling innovation. These things included things like developing new raw materials, creating your own AI systems, new Industry 4.0, Industry 5.0 technologies, which would enhance manufacturing, streamline processes, and help mitigate some of the demographic challenges that you're facing due to a reduced workforce and productivity challenges. Facing polarization on the one hand and the need to integrate migrant populations on the other hand, the government also launched a strategy to foster inclusion. The government invested heavily in digitalization, and government services were made just easier for everybody. There was a lot less redundant work. This included services for migrants. It simplified work and visa processes and recognized the qualifications that people bring in from other countries. This helped address labor shortages. And as a result, in the year 2035, Germany is a dynamic economy fueled by the world's leading technological innovation and by diversity across industry sectors. It is the architect of things like energy and batteries and advanced manufacturing. It is a leader in environmentally sustainable and renewable innovations. It is a global epicenter for innovation, and it is an inclusive and unified society. Germany, to get there, has a diverse export portfolio that includes a variety of different technologies. The Mittelstand is a leader. Not overall, but individually, there are companies now that are leading in environmental tech and manufacturing. There are 9 innovation clusters that are globally known, just as famous as Silicon Valley. There are 9 of them right here in Germany. R&D has been accelerated and empowered throughout every company. Manufacturing is taken a leap ahead because of additive processes. New materials have helped reshape everything from climate technology to infrastructure to logistics and even global food production. And there's been a successful energy transition that is now the model for what is happening elsewhere in the world. In society, people want to come here. They want to live in Germany because this is a place where the best and brightest come to work. There's a founder and innovation culture that's not like a nice-to-have thing. It's actually fostered now in school. Childcare is expanded through public-private partnerships, and women work. They are a big part of the workforce. All right. This is not like blue sky, hyperbolic, crazy thinking. The model that we built shows that this is achievable. Not tomorrow, it is achievable. Our analysis shows that it's achievable through small but decisive steps. And we have a list of them for you in the report. I just want to highlight one so that you understand what's in there for you. So one decisive step that could be taken would be to go all in on the concept of Industry 5.0. Look at your foundational work here and what drives the economy. What does the next iteration of that look like? The decisive step would be You have to use data differently. I know privacy is a concern here. I get all of that, and I'm on your side. But the truth is, you are not using data well in your companies and at the government level. There is a way to preserve privacy and to make sure that everybody feels comfortable, while at the same time making use of the data, the thing that will propel us all going forward. So if that's your decisive step, and it's not a zero sum, you just have to think about it in a different way. This is about changing perception. Then you would be able to do things like know exactly what's happening on your manufacturing plant floor at any given time, which would allow you to do things like prioritize areas of innovation, which would eventually allow you to start measuring impact and make improvements. I'm intentionally highlighting something that is very boring. And the reason is because this is something you can and should be doing right now. But you're not, because nobody wants to have a complicated conversation. There's a lot of opportunity on the horizon. But what I see happening is this adherence to the status quo. So let's take a look at that. What happens if you just try to protect what you are currently doing? You stay on the current path. In this scenario, government, again, not tomorrow, but over time, withdraws from the global stage. Despite years of warning about a critical shortage of skilled workers in this country, by 2035, you've got a deficit of 7 million people, 7 million jobs that are not fulfilled. And because you have that worker shortage, you now have things like healthcare problems, elder care problems, but you also don't have enough people to do all of the things in the companies that propel that GDP forward. Energy-intensive industries that were foundational to your economy, like chemical and steels and gas, they've left. They've moved their production outside of Germany. The innovation landscape is fragmented. Germany is just no longer a significant technology player. As the economy declines, polarization expands. Government winds up paralyzed, can't make decisions, and leaders trying to preserve the status quo instead wind up causing Germany's decline. And part of what leads to a really sort of sad future is that German people have just lost their trust in institutions, and they can't see themselves as contributing going forward. As large action models are being developed and generative biology and things like that enter the mainstream, German companies, they were just complacent. They just didn't feel a sense of urgency. Boards and executives were focused on the next couple of quarters, and this stuff just felt too far off, and it felt too risky to make any kind of decision, so nobody made any decisions. Some people in their companies, they did try to convince leaders that the landscape was changing, but they didn't see any point in planning beyond 12 to 18 months. There was such a strong belief in the invincibility of German Kunst when it came to German enterprise and traditional industries that leaders did not see competitive threats to their horizons. Business leaders did see shrinking export markets and intensifying global competition, but they were only willing to make tiny incremental tweaks because that's what felt comfortable. This created two new problems. One, talented German workers fed up with a stagnant innovation ecosystem who just couldn't take their ideas and get them into any kind of production, they left. They fled Germany to go find work that was more fulfilling elsewhere. The second thing that happened was that Germany wasn't able to attract foreign talent, in part because German companies were no longer all that attractive, and in part because the paperwork and the visa and just the government bureaucracy was a nightmare. For a little while, Germany's hidden champions, they managed to maintain their competitive edge, but the rest of the world changed. And challenge their business models. The Mittelstand's value networks changed right before their eyes, but by the time that they were willing and ready to act on it, it was too expensive and complicated to change anything. Healthcare? Germany's healthcare system by 2035 is a mess. It's under strain. Consequences of an aging population, as well as the health impacts of climate change. Government, at some point, tried to step in and do something through preventative measures, like telehealth initiatives. But all of this came too late, and there were low adoption rates because people didn't trust the government with electronic health records and with their health data. And all of this further strained the country's financial resources, which led to growing distrust of all institutions. There was an attempt to digitize government services, but it turned out to be kind of like a half measure that was underfunded. The result was neither fully digital, but also not totally analog, and incomplete data sets held back improvements. So Germany missed an opportunity to link public and private organizations together for mutual benefit. If the early 2020s was about malaise and complacency and a lack of urgency, by 2035, the situation and the feeling in Germany is very clear. Deep-seated, terrifying economic uncertainty. In 2035, Germany's society is in decline. AI is not creating new value here. It's generating misinformation and social isolation. Biotech passed Germany by. The new global leaders are in the United Arab Emirates and in Saudi Arabia, where people are leaving Germany to go work. The world's most beloved car company, hold on to your hats, folks. The world's most beloved car companies, the biggest exporter of vehicles isn't Germany anymore. You know where it is? You're right, it is China. Germans are unhappy. What started out as a deep-seated fear of change back in 2024 is now just immense regret and frustration in the year 2035, directed at business leaders and government infrastructure. People perceive that they've lost their hard-earned wealth. The trend now is claiming rights over embracing responsibilities. As a result, this is what you inherit by the year 2035. Germany has workforce and innovation challenges. You, at this point, are struggling to go through that digital transformation. You have declining research and manufacturing capabilities. The energy transformation and environmental challenges that you were facing 10 years ago now are exacerbated to a point where you can't really manage it. And there's huge negative cultural and societal shifts. So, again, this scenario is not going to happen overnight. The best way to think about what's coming for you is that you're facing a series of paper cuts. You know what a paper cut is? You get one paper cut, it's annoying. You get like 2 paper cuts, it's annoying, and now you're thinking about it. Imagine your body covered in 2,000 paper cuts, head to toe. You're alive, but life is nothing like it was before. What I see coming on the status quo, because you're not willing to take strategic risks, is a series of paper cuts that completely debilitates you over time. Our analysis shows that if you stay on the continued path that you're on, you wind up with a massive worker shortage. You wind up with shrinking export markets. You have a persistent bureaucracy that's annoying today, but will eventually prevent you from innovating. AI, sure, you'll adopt AI, just like everybody, for little bits and pieces of productivity gains, while in the meantime, your industries will have missed the opportunity to reshape the landscape going forward. In society, you just won't be able to attract foreign talent. Your workforce over time, again, according to our model, people will feel more and more disempowered, and technology will not be seen as an opportunity, it'll be seen as a threat. We see society starting to crumble and to turn into something that we don't think you want going forward. So if we were to, again, look at the current state, let's say that's industry, what's your current missed opportunity? It's not adjusting your company structure to take advantage of some of these opportunities. It's a small step that any business could take. And as a result of that, you wind up with isolated innovation efforts that don't bleed over, resource-intensive problems trying to harmonize all of these innovations in different ways. And basically, because the innovation doesn't lead to anything, you wind up reverting to what worked in the past. How do we know this model plays out? Because we've seen it. We've seen it now at several German companies. You face two choices today. The choices include two paths. One, that's the easier path. That creates short-term gains, but ultimately will cause Germany to lose its competitive edge and its leadership position in Europe and the world. The other path, arguably the harder path, requires short-term sacrifices, but creates long-term value, economic growth, and geopolitical stability, which God knows we need. It creates that for Germany, but it also benefits the entire world. Germany needs a clear vision from you, from government and from business. It needs that vision, and then it needs strategy and execution. The opportunity scenario is plausible, but it is not going to show up fully formed. It is the result of decisions that you make today. That is why we put these scenarios together for you. So they are now launched. They are available for you to download. There is a guide that you can use in your government agency or within your company or with your family. It has strategic questions and our recommended next steps. And I hope for all of our sakes, you make the decision now to turn off the path. Thank you very much.